I had thought I was been spiritual my whole life, reading the books, and I had the Tao Te Ching when I was 14 years old. But until I studied with these teachers, I was stuck in concepts. So it was an idea I was reading in a book, but it wasn't my lived experience. That's the shift, right? It's coming from head to heart. It's coming into a deeply rooted sense of being and knowing the world. Yeah, the world literally became more beautiful.
Welcome back to the Awakening Her podcast. My name is Talia Joy, and today I'm sitting down with Holly Erin Copeland. This is a really beautiful and expansive conversation all around inner rewilding. So this episode is great if you've been feeling the pull to come back to yourself, to live outside the boxes you've been placed in, to really connect and reconnect with the deeper intelligence of your body and of your soul. Holly is a meditation teacher, an author, and a guide to wild within. She weaves together meditation and frequency and ceremony and teachings and methodologies, and holds a really grounded reminder that our body is a portal and a tuning fork and a pathway back to our own soul. In this conversation, she really helps us to really understand what it actually means to rewild your inner world. We'll hear her story, how to listen to your body's wisdom, and how to be who you truly are in this journey on your spiritual awakening path without forcing yourself into somebody else's version of what that should look like. Holly is also a mother, daughter, friend, mom of twins, and I love how she brings this work into real life in a way that feels embodied and honest and human and grounded. So without further ado, let's just dive into this episode and welcome Holly onto the show. Hello, Holly. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. How are you doing today?
Hi, Talia. Thank you. I'm doing great today. Really excited to be here to have this conversation with you.
So why don't we start with a little bit about who you are, where you are, your business, who you serve, just that light topic. Let's just dive in and start there.
Gosh, where do I begin with that? Who I am? Well, I'm really a ceremonialist and a sacred space holder, and I guess do work with healing frequencies and sound. Those are my core tools. But this is my second career, and so I'm really a person on a mission to rewild the heart of humanity. And the reason that is my mission is because I used to be an ecologist. I used to be work for the Nature Conservancy. And so I was a scientist, and I thought that would always be my career. And along the way, I got really burnt out and disheartened by the state of the world, and feeling like it would never be enough, like what I did would never be enough. And I went on a journey to really tackle that feeling within myself, and to tackle the kind of mess in my mind and the like an existential, like kind of full on existential crisis, I guess you might even say. And well, we can talk about what that was. But as I came out of that, and as I started it totally upended and shifted my perspective of the world. And I came to see that in order to rewild or save, if you want, I'm the 8-year-old who wanted to save the whales. In order to save the planet that we so deeply care about, we actually have to rewild our own hearts. And it's an inner process, not an outer one. Or it begins as an inner process, which unfolds in the outer world that we long to see. And so that became my mission and my passion to rewild the heart of humanity.
Oh, there's so many questions that I have from there. But yeah, let's dive into the existential crisis because, we don't tiptoe around things here. But curious, more about that turning point in your life, and also sort of what life had become like leading up to that, looking back, like what led to that and what do you think was going on? And yeah, I'd love to hear.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Just a little light topic.
The Awakening Her podcast. We do not dip in the shallow end. We go deep.
Right. Awesome. I love it. And I love going deep. So, this is one of those funny moments in life where I'm in my mid 40s and I've done all the things. So I've checked, if you looked around, if you looked from society's point of view, by all rights outside, I looked like a complete success. I mean, I had a dream job with an environmental group. I had a loving husband. I had two beautiful children. I still do. Uh, and a beautiful log home in a small Western town, and a thriving group of friends. And I was healthy. Um, and so I'm checking all the boxes, but I don't feel happy inside. And there was this moment that I tell in my book, which we'll get into. That I wrote a book, but there's this moment where my husband said to me, like, you just don't seem happy. And at the moment, I actually was sort of indignant. I was like, what do you mean I'm not happy? But he was right. And he was pointing out that, life had become a grind and I was working ridiculously hard because I felt like it was my mission and my duty to save the planet. Like because I'm a white, well-to-do American, it's my job to do all the things that I can possibly do to help our planet shift. And in that became like a hamster wheel I couldn't get off of. And I just felt like just every day was like just the next thing to do and the next thing to do. And my life kind of felt like this inside. It felt like this treadmill I couldn't step off of because by God, I got to do my part to save the world. And what I didn't realize is I'd like taken that on so internally that I was exhausted and kind of cranky, and life had lost its joy. And he was pointing out what was like a slow thing. It was like a slow drip, where all of a sudden all of those drips become like, totally just kind of covering the beautiful glass that, would be the lantern of me, was like covered by like foggy glass. So life just had lost its luster. And I had been a spiritual person my whole life. So this is the interesting thing, is that along the way, I was a huge fan of Oprah Winfrey's podcast. I'd read Eckhart Tolle. So I was like, what I want to kind of paint the picture of is like, I'm a spiritual person, but all those books and all that reading didn't actually land in any way that like got to the heart of like this problem of feeling like deeply kind of saddened by the state of the world, and that I could actually live from a space of true joy and freedom. I hadn't felt that. That wasn't my lived experience. Mm. And then actually a health crisis hit. I got mold poisoning. So kind of two things collided. Like I'm feeling existentially like burnout and I get mold poisoning. And I decided to go on a meditation retreat. And I got this idea in my head that I just needed to learn how to meditate. That maybe if I kind of started there, because I'd never been able to, even though I'd been a spiritual person, I'd tried meditation, but it just felt pointless and it didn't feel like it was doing anything. And so I went on this weekend long meditation retreat, and it kind of blew my mind out of the water. That like it was hard. It was really, really hard. But at the end of it, I felt this level of peace that I'd never felt before. After I got through all the hard parts. And I from there went home and I started meditating, and I started actually working with some meditation technology, biofeedback technology called the Muse headband. And that started to help. I got a coach. And then ultimately I joined a few months in, I joined a meditation group that I was invited to by a teacher. And I did this 10-week meditation course. And it so profoundly changed my life. And then I went on to become a meditation teacher with with the people that hosted that course, and really awakened out of my own traps and out of my own mind, and discovered what true joy was through that whole what was not just 10 weeks, but through, I ended up going on to study with him. And sort of, meditation became a part of my everyday life. And I also started exploring plant medicine, and I started working with plants and plant teachers. And that profoundly shifted my life as well. And the two things, like, so deeply changed me or woke me or whatever you want to call it, that I ended up leaving my job and deciding that this was all I wanted to do.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing how things can come in. And there's so many reflections here, but just on that, I'll say to my clients often how, change isn't overnight. However, when you make a bunch of different decisions, it's miraculous how something can just then take a left turn, like your career or something else, relationships, different things can, it is a quantum leap, but it's built of a whole bunch of like different decisions, energetic shifts. And then actually, I'm going to let go of this career and go a different way. Thank you for sharing your story of, I just want to come back to the beginning of it and how you're basically describing exactly a year ago for me. And we go through these cycles of transformation. We've been through them over and over. But at the end of last year, I too had a slightly different circumstances, but where I was just getting worn away and overwhelmed and unjoyful, feeling caught up in the fogginess, caught up in the stress, caught up in the pressure, the exhaustion. And my husband as well had a moment of like, you don't seem happy. And it's like, what do you mean? And for me, it's like, I got to keep going. I have kids, I have a business, I have to keep going. I have no choice. But I was almost becoming resentful toward that. And like, I just want to freaking break. I'm just overstimulated. I'm just overwhelmed to the point where I was in the ground and had to let go of all of the doing. I still had to obviously raise my children and get up in the morning and all that stuff, but I had to clear the space. And so I just want to say, I know a lot of people listening. I'm like, yep, I've gone through that too. Maybe your partner, maybe a friend's like, dude, you don't seem okay. And sometimes that external reflection, especially it sounds like your husband and mine as well, it was said in love, but it was a jolt of like, you don't seem happy. You don't seem stoked to even like be with the family and do. I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm exhausted. And they always need so much from me and everyone needs so much. And I was in it. And I said like 2025, the end of 2024, 2025 for myself was the washing machine of life where I was just thrown around, not okay. And in this place, I feel like I've truly been through a rebirth. So we'll get to that as well. But I know that so well where you've just been I don't know if it's degraded, but like your energy has been depleted to the point where all of a sudden you don't even realize that you're on the ground with your face smushed, not knowing what to do or nothing's bringing you joy. And what a wake up, right? So it's like,
Right.
I just see you in that. I know everybody listening can feel that when you were in your career. I was lost in the overstimulation of everyday life. I got to keep going, and we can get to that place. So good job listening, whether it was to your husband or to yourself at some point, to take that pivot where we go, enough. Because to me, it was, I don't want to live my life suffering. I've always suffered. I've always been in pain. I've always been this and that. Enough, right? Time to change the perspective from, oh my God, there's so many dishes, to we are abundant. I've got children. They regenerate those dishes like nothing. And it's a privilege to be their mom right now. And these shifts that were hard to make in the moment, not saying that I lost gratitude for my children, but we're just talking about when you're overwhelmed with all the things, right? And so there was rapid perspective shifts in my business. Instead of I got to do this, to I get to, and how do I want to express myself moving forward? And lots of things, we'll talk about yours as well, but I'm curious, like, what were some of those big, almost either perspective shifts or energy shifts, maybe as you started getting into meditation, or what do you feel was kind of that turning point for you?
Oh, yeah, that's a big question. What was that turning point for me? And thank you. Just to say thank you for sharing, because it's helpful to hear. And I'm sure it is for the people listening. Like, I think this is a pretty common thing, especially as moms and, and you have a job and, and your job is to be you're a wife, and it's a lot. It's a lot. And I just want to really acknowledge that, like, and what I learned was when I made those perspective shifts, like I could carry it all completely differently.
Mm.
So I also want to just upfront say, like, now, like, I very much, my experience and my belief is that your birthright is joy. Like, that's the birthright of every human being. And so, you know, suffering is optional, right? It really is. Yeah. And I just want, and I also want to say, and I remember, just to come back to this moment, because you had one too, like, you just don't seem happy. And I remember not only thinking, like, what do you mean? But I also remember thinking, like, wait a minute, like, for everything I'm doing, I got to be happy too. Like, it was almost like that
Oh,
was
great. Another thing.
that was another thing. Okay, now I got to put on a happy face. Like, you want to like do a big FU, like, Jesus, do you know how much I'm doing? But it was such a good reflection because, yeah.
And even if someone would have said, you just need to meditate, it would have felt like that too. Like, oh, for F's sakes, like, come on, like, no. But then you circle back around because my husband's going, just take time for you. And at the time, I want to be like, meh, meh, meh. Like, what do you mean? I'm busy. I can't. But once I finally listened and started going for a walk slowly and carving out some time to have a bath in the day because I'm just crying and I'm not functional anyway. So I might as well relax or whatever. And then I start coming around to like, I just needed some time for me. My husband's probably like, great idea. Right. But it's funny because if someone would have said, you just need to meditate, it would have been like, oh, thanks. Another thing I have to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And where am I squeezing that in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, and we really, what I learned was to like take, like, we've got to put, one of the phrases I love to use is like, this is a put on your own oxygen mask first situation, like, in life. And in order to support our families as moms, in the way that we want to, we actually have to do this for ourselves first. We owe it to ourselves. It's, and and it's beyond, I mean, taking a bath or meditating, these are all things that will help. But at the end of the day, it's like such a deeply personal journey. It is so, like, I want to kind of reach out to everyone listening and say, like, feel into your own heart, because you're the one who's going to know, like, what is it your soul really needs. And it's about listening deeply to, and starting to cultivate a relationship with your inner being, with your own heart. And because your own heart is where, all the answers are within you, as Rumi loves to say. Like, so meditation is simply, I want to demystify it a little bit here to say, it's not, it's a doorway to a conversation with your own heart. And so what the, whether it's meditation or it's going to take a walk by the sea or whatever it is, it's beginning to give yourself time to listen within. That's what's important about it. To discover who you really are inside. And you asked kind of what the perspective shifts were, and maybe I haven't quite articulated it this way that I'm kind of going to right now, but it's like, through the plant medicine, through the meditation, it started to connect me with a reality bigger than myself, that this small identity and this thing that I thought I was, mom, ecologist, um, smart person who reads the New York Times. I was like all the thing. I had lots of different personalities, we all do. And meditation is the age-old practice of going beyond that separate self, that those identities, into really a reconnection with source, spirit, divine, whatever you want to call it. The words aren't important, but what is important is the ineffable, transcendent space that is holding us all. and that is here, it is both who we are and holding us at the same time. And so taking time to explore consciousness in this way. The Tibetans, in the Tibetan schools that I studied, Dzogchen and Mahamudra, it's like taking a new view. So it's like seeing with different eyes. Like normally, most of us kind of see with this everyday mind that feels like it's a me in here and a world out there. And what they say is that when you find the ground of being, when you discover this ground of being that transcends our identity, then we can relax back into this space that's holding us all, and we can, die before we die. We can die to the thing we think we are, to this greater self. And that's where the trust and the love and the wholeness that we are, the recognition that we're not broken, that there's nothing to fix, that we're enough just as we are.
Also, that you are not just ecologist, you are not just mom,
Right.
you are not just human, with these identities. It's like going from out there to in here in all the
Mhm.
ways, right?
Exactly.
The labels we hold to, but who am I really? The eternal me, the eternal Tao. And yeah, that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that. It's the thing is that I had thought I was been spiritual my whole life, reading the books. And I had the Tao Te Ching when I was 14 years old. But until I studied with these teachers, I was stuck in concepts. So there was an idea I was reading in a book, but it wasn't my lived
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm. And that is a big shift that happens.
That's the shift, right?
Mhm.
It's coming from head to heart. It's coming into a deeply rooted sense of being and knowing the world.
Yeah.
Um,
It's almost like it's not a perspective shift because it's not through the mind, but like you said, with different glasses, like we shift the lens. And then everything we see things with, like Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So it's not, I had to shift my perspective on career. I had to shift it wasn't individual things like spot cleaning, It's like you just shifted the whole lens deeply from within, and then
right.
everything started appearing differently.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
world literally became more beautiful.
Mm.
No. And so that's where this, and then when I went to I decided I actually wanted, it was so profound, everything that happened. I wanted to write a book to tell my story. And as I was like in the process of beginning to write that book, this idea of inner rewilding just dropped in kind of from the cosmos, which was like, oh, all this time I'd been trying to rewild the world out there. But
Mm.
really, what I needed to do was rewild my own heart.
Mhm. And that's what I was gonna ask you next. What is rewilding to you? And sometimes my community, I'll say, like, I'm just pulling from human words because the things we try to describe is so much more than a word. So sometimes it's hard to be like, but what does that physically mean? Because as we're talking about, it's a shift in your essence and in your energy and everything. But if you are to put it into human words,
Yeah.
what is rewilding? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it probably in any given day that you'd ask me, I might have a slightly different answer. But what it really means to me is living untamed, without boxes, living,
Mm.
wild to me is like wild beauty. It can be whatever it wants to be. It's not boxed in, it's not um trimmed and hedged and looking neat and tidy. It's like life sort of in the flow, life in alignment, in accordance with nature, life in alignment, in accordance with our heart, um, and with deeper wisdom and truths. Um, yeah.
So what did that look like for you? Like again, it's almost funny to say, what is the process of rewilding? But what does that mean? Like, what does that mean to rewild your heart and to, is it questions you're asking yourself? Is it through that meditation, being more aware of what your inner guide is saying, what your body, your heart, what are, what is that process, or what does that kind of look like?
Yeah. So great question. And what ended up happening was it actually unfolded for me as a mandala of four key pillars. So, and I outline these, and the book is like part memoir, part guidebook. The
Mm.
second half is all kind of what I'm about to describe. And what these four pillars are is they're a mandala on in different directions. And so but very simply, it's awaken, attune, allow, and align. So awaken is awaken to peace, awaken to the ground of being, awaken to the transcendent, capital S self. That is always and already whole, and always and already enough. Um, Before I went on this journey, I didn't know that peace was my true nature. I didn't understand. It was not my experience. It was like happiness was something you had to create.
Mm.
But through modern non-dual teachers and the teachings, I came to see that, oh, happiness is what I am and who I am. And I don't need to do anything or be anything to get that. It's right here when I surrender into awareness itself.
Mm.
So that's really founded on awareness based in the spiritual world. We call it awareness, but that kind of awareness consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And then attune to the living universe. Attune is really to then, once you're grounded in awareness, there's this energetic, alive Shiva, Shakti energy that's, vibrant, the vibrant aliveness of the universe. And it's to start to tune into those subtle energies, to see them as energies we can tune into that have layers and depths to them. And so what I experienced I work with tuning forks. I'm a biofield tuning practitioner. And what I experienced was that I could use tuning forks, for example, to tune into people's fields and start to work with subtle energies as a healer that way. And that really opened up a whole universe for me that I didn't realize existed. And the point isn't for everybody to become a biofield tuner, but the point is to recognize that we can learn to see ourselves like radios that can tune to this to different frequencies of this living universe to support us on our journey as humans. So it's kind of tools to help support people in starting to work with the energetic universe. And then allow the flow is, no, for me, like key to the spiritual path is surrender. If we can't, you know, and so it had to be its own pillar because it just kept coming up again and again and again. It feels to me so central to give over to this. Put words to it. And that when we and for me the key, the bridge, the word here is just trust. It's like really learning to trust that we're all held by something bigger than ourselves. And that when I do that, one thing I teach is like, it's that big, like, let go of the steering wheel, and then let your heart drive the car, and let your heart connect with this greater this if you saw my hands, I know this is a podcast, but this holding all of this. And then align to your wild heart. And for me, this is the sort of manifestation space. This is, once we do those things, once we awaken to the peace that's our true nature, and learn to work with subtle energies and fall back into trust, then we kind of come into a kind of space where anything's possible. And so from here, feeling and knowing your heart as this magnet, this thing that can magnetize whatever it is you're here to do in this wild, one precious life, to continue to align to that and let that guide your life. And what I found in my own path was that when I did all these things and then reoriented towards a life that was driven by where my heart felt really guided and my heart was the most important thing, then life started to really flow, and it didn't become this hard work that I got up every morning that I have to do, but it got to be like my creative life
Mm-hmm.
to be in partnership with the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So those four key principles became kind of the process the way that I communicate how to go on this inner rewilding journey. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and yeah, none of them are, rocket science. They're all kind of outlined in different ways throughout spiritual texts. But I do think that these four pillars and the way that for me they are articulated, they kind of capture an essence that I find really beautiful. That's not
Mm-hmm.
mine. Inner rewilding is its own entity that came through me. But I think it's super beautiful way of articulating to me the essence of the spiritual journey and the awakening journey.
Mm-hmm. That's really beautiful. And I love it because in when self growth and self personal transformation started to become bigger in recent history and big people, Tony Robbins or whoever, it becomes very, even though I believe in the message of Tony Robbins, it can look very like go out and get external success. But what you are outlining reminds me more of becoming who you already are, becoming the fullest expression of you, which is a bit more about, as you're saying, like listening to yourself and rooting in and all this stuff that's like already within you, less about go out, smash those goals, spend 23 minutes a day doing blah, blah, blah. It's like the answers to what you're looking for, are within you and become possible, or they flourish as you unleash yourself. Like rewilding, I just get this, like, I don't know, I just this image of like almost tighten a bud into like, whoa, like there's all these, it's like you said, it's almost like a mandala explodes. It's like rewilding, which is more about letting yourself be who you truly are and be expressed and listen to your heart rather than step by step by step. And then you're going to go get something or go become somebody out there. And I just love the way you're talking about it, because I do feel like we've evolved. Our consciousness has evolved. Self-growth and what that mean has evolved. There's a lot of old souls here right now going like, okay, I've done a lot of the self-growth, as you were saying. I've read books, I've done courses, and it's still not quite landing in here. And so it sounds like your work addresses, especially, our clients almost sound the same, where they've done a lot of that stuff and we're looking for more, right? So now you're looking at it from the inside instead of the outside of, you got to do all these things. Does that feel accurate? Does that resonate with you?
Totally. I think you just summed it up very beautifully in maybe a way somebody hasn't mirrored back to me before. I think that's
Mm,
exactly it. And so it's like I like to say no one can do this for you,
mm-hmm,
and it's your beautiful journey with yourself to go on.
mm-hmm,
And it, there's what I like about inner rewilding, it's like there's no roadmap. I can't take you, and because my path is going to look different than your path.
mm-hmm,
So I can't tell you do this, do this, do this, do this. But what I can tell you are that these four pillars, these four, yeah, principles, like will lead you there.
mm-hmm,
They will let your own heart show you what is uniquely for you to bring into the world and to come back to yourself into this deeper relationship with yourself where all your answers lie.
mm-hmm. I was going to ask that actually. How do you feel now embodied in these teachings? And I don't know about you, but I find I am a teacher and an author of the exact stuff that I need and have needed and continue to need. So even my upcoming book, it's not like, oh, I wrote it and now I'm done. It's like, this is your work in this lifetime, is rewilding yourself and then teaching others, but staying always doing that. So I was going to ask, how has being more embodied in this practice and writing the book and all that changed, I want to say like the way you treat yourself, your self-care, as people would say, or how your day looks, like the little decisions you make for yourself from a rewilding perspective rather than I got to be perfect or I got to check boxes or I should do this or, I don't know if you struggled with that before, the shoulds and, how do I be my perfect highest self? So how do your sort of daily decisions and how you treat yourself, maybe how you move your body or the food you eat or how you go forward in your goals, your business, how does that look different coming from pushing rather than rewilding in that perspective?
Yeah, that's a really beautiful question. I love it. So yes, I was totally all those things. I'm like the consummate A+ student, always working very hard and pushing. Like I would say, I would characterize my previous self as kind of a pushy boss who was like nothing's ever enough, and she always works so hard and is kind of a perfectionist in some ways for sure. Um, and I would say that the rewilded self is more relaxed. Just I'm more at ease with life. And I spend more time kind of asking the universe, you show me where we're going next. I don't know. You give me the answer. And I talk to the universe like that,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes my, little Holly that thinks she knows everything, she'll kind of come in and try to um, be kind of bossy. But I recognize that now. I recognize when she's coming in, and I can kind of call her on it, and I can just be like, oh no, give it over. You don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a universe here you're in partnership with, and it knows way more than you'll ever know. So just give it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a sense of ease and joy in my being that I think, people around me would say, like, you're just way more like just in the flow with life and
Mm-hmm. More chill.
watching more chill, way more
Yeah.
chill and joyful. I'm
Mm,
more joyful and like intrinsically happy, and things don't ruffle me easily at
mm,
all. Like I never rush to things anymore. I'm like an adamant not rusher.
mm,
You know, um, I don't want to miss this. You know, I'm happy with this. I'm not trying to get somewhere. Like I have, I'm excited for my book to come out and for it to do well, but I'm also like okay with where things are now too.
mm,
I trust that it's all unfolding in its time. That's my practice anyway. It's a
mm,
it's a practice. So I want to just say, like, I'm not saying I have everything figured out, but I'm saying um that I have a very different perspective on life than I used to have. And, consequently my life is very I'm very like I feel deeply happy
mm,
inside. I don't feel like I'm trying to get something or seeking. I'm not seeking anymore. Um,
mm,
like, what am I missing? I don't feel that way anymore. Um, so yeah. So yeah, it may not be what people thought rewild. Like maybe they think of like some, crazy woman in the woods. And sometimes I am a crazy woman in the woods. I love nature, and I love to take hikes, and I love to, oh, one of my favorite places is a hot springs that's clothing optional,
nice.
and I like love like
Rewilding.
so yeah, I probably to some people that would be crazy. My mom kind of rolls her eyes. She's like, you really love that place. And I'm like, I know. It's so great to be without your clothes in a hot springs,
That's
like
awesome. I was actually going to ask that. Does rewilding, is there a line the way just you see it or in your work or in your book, a thread of it that involves fun and play and as we were talking I kept seeing the inner child and just how for myself it was such an important part of just loosening up, which is only one sort of aspect of what you're talking about.
yeah.
You're talking too about the energetic, like the attuning and all this other sometimes more serious feeling stuff, but
Yeah.
just relaxing and like going and jumping in a puddle, or being like, I just want spaghetti and meatballs and garlic toast because that's what my inner child wants. Or I want to just go outside and open my mouth because it's raining and be like, ah, you know.
Right.
And part of that skipping through the forest helped me. I don't know if you would call it rewilding, but to just loosen up and play. And, you know, where I was describing when my husband was like, dude, you're not happy. I was not that. I wasn't enjoying the moment, and everything was so adulty and heavy. And, you know, and I realized my inner child really needed some tending to. So going out and making a snowball and just, you know, or whatever, just doing fun stuff. Is there any part of that that you practice as well that comes into rewilding at all? Just having
Yeah.
fun?
Yeah, totally. I love that. Absolutely. Well, number one, my inner child loves French fries. So like give me a French fry anytime. I will,
With
you
maybe
know,
too much ketchup. Who
with
knows?
exactly. Or aioli. Oh God, so yummy. Right. So like being playful with food and not getting overly stressed about it,
Mhm.
for sure is a part that I used to be like ridiculously had this inner voice all the time, telling me what I could eat and couldn't eat. And, I let go of that. And I'm not so worried. I'm just not worried about it. And I find that with that comes like there's we could do a whole like half-hour conversation about body image and the way that we're like have to be the perfect body. And, and the way that I was, running obsessively all the time in order to stay a perfect weight. It like transcended all these aspects of my life.
Mhm.
And I don't have a scale and I don't worry about it. And somehow I like my clothes fit fine.
Mhm.
It's like my body just like I trust, like I've learned to trust my body in what it needs. And, so that relationship is also more easeful. My inner
Mhm.
child loves to cold plunge in rivers, and, yeah, go swimming in a river or a creek naked,
Mhm.
you know? Um,
Mhm.
and
So what you're saying is your happy place is always naked and always in water. That's what I'm getting from our
yes.
conversation. Different forms, cold water,
That's
hot
true.
water,
Hot water. Yes, that's
naked.
true. Naked. Yeah. Eating plants,
That's
mushrooms.
definitely wilded, which I love.
Yeah.
Rewilded. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
because I think that fun and that play and just like woohoo, you know, and staring up at the
dancing.
stars. And like the other day, I got out of my car at night, and because it's getting darker earlier and all that stuff, it's like I just looked up. I was like, holy crap, all the stars. And I just
Right.
took a moment, like, wow, and feel like that wonder, that looseness. Like, yeah, I got to go inside and make dinner, adult, adult, but like take a moment and find the Big Dipper and go like, oh my goodness, I found the Big Dipper. Like, you know, it's that fun, just
Yeah.
loosen up a little bit in this world that is so intense and so polarizing, and politics and money and credit scores and all this adult shit. Take a
Yeah.
second to, you know, eat some French fries and walk straight through the puddle and see what happens. Or, you know, be in that wonder. That to me feels, maybe just because that's more what I needed on my path, it feels like a huge part of tuning into my heart, because my heart isn't just like your credit score. Meh. My heart is like, go put your hand out of the window when you're driving down the car in the car down the road, because it feels like you're on a road trip and like you're a kid, you know. And so I just, yeah, I see that too as just so important in all of our lives, to remember to have fun, to remember to play sometimes, because it can get, even self growth can get very serious, and we're trying to deblock and we're trying to fix all
Yeah.
of our problems. And it's like, or maybe the answer to our problems is out there because there's like a rainbow and we're missing it because we're in here stressed about, you know, our self sabotage. It's like, we'll just go have fun, you know, not that it's that simple, but I think there's a big part of it where permission to loosen up and have a little bit of fun and enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think those are all things that for me unfolded through this
Mhm.
journey. So, we have to go in and look at like what are the parts of us that aren't. This is the kind of work that, I ended up having to do one in meditation and plant medicine and confronting like these parts of me that wouldn't actually let me receive the goodness of life
Mm,
that were
that's, yeah,
right. They
that's,
wouldn't let me, they didn't give me permission. I didn't give myself permission to receive those things.
mhm.
because I didn't earn it or I wasn't good enough or what, there wasn't time. My God, I got to save a world. There's like people starving in Africa. There's not, and there's whales caught in lines and there's pollution everywhere. There's not time to have fun. Like I kind of gotten to that level of life.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
it's, oh,
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's all for a very good reason too, right? Like a lot of us like, but we're mothers giving to our kids, or but we are a business that's saving the world, or but I'm, saving the earth, and it's all for a good reason. But you just have to have, it sounds like you had a man in the mirror moment, right? I'm talking about that, where you're like, I need to shift me. And that's the thing too. Like when I was going through my stuff, I'm like, this is literally what I do with people. And I actually took a moment to step outside myself and go, if I was my own client, what would I say here? And I kind of popped my channel over to giving myself guidance, which I don't know, being an intuitive, it's like, feels like sometimes there's different channels where I really looked at myself, and some of the guidance coming forward was like, be grace with yourself, give yourself compassion, give yourself rest, like relax. And I had to kind of think, I don't know, it just, I had to realize that, oh, yeah, it's me. And I need to do my work to continue bettering the world, not just for that, but also taking my own medicine, So sometimes it's like you took your own medicine before you even realized the book was in you and all the stuff. But we have to look at ourselves, even if yes, it's our children. Yes, there are children all over the world that need us, or whales that need us, or, clients. But at the end of the day, if you don't look after yourself, I always say, like, your soul came into this experience with a highest expression that could happen, things you quote unquote came here to do, a purpose, all that. But if you just go after that and miss the memo of your own joy, then your soul's going like, oh, like you're missing the point. Not that there's actual judgment, because your soul's not ever judging you, but that feeling of you're missing the point to
Mhm.
just chase the abundance without nurturing your own self and garden, So I love that what you teach really has people come inside themselves, which will make their business more potent, their work, their art, their family life. It just, as you said, it changes everything, because now you're looking after yourself, and then you can go like, okay, now what did we come here to do? Like, let's do this from that place, because you got the memo.
Exactly. Yeah, very, very well said. Yes. It's like once you've done that, then you're like, okay, now what are we here to do?
Yeah.
What's my unique gift, genius that I'm here to birth into the world? But
Yeah.
before you get to that point, you have to do the other work of coming in to really, deeply listen to who you are and to listen to the universe and cultivate that inner path, that inner relationship, and to confront the demons that are whatever yours are, the parts that
Mm-hmm.
are telling you you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're not, you're alone, you have to do it all yourself, whatever those are, whatever those patterns and voices that you picked up are.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to really, bring love and compassion to those spaces within us.
Yeah.
And then, you become as Gandhi said, you become the change you wish to see in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It has to start with you. And I just didn't, at the time, before I went on this journey, I would have felt like, well, I don't really have time for that. I'm busy.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that we're here to do that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And
Also, what is that? We're not a human doing, we're a human being.
right, exactly. We are
Yeah.
a human being.
Yeah.
So, is I'm here to give everyone permission to take that inner path so beautifully. I don't want to take it seriously because that sounds like then it becomes work, but like I just think there's a lot of people telling other people what, there was kind of a self-righteousness that I used to have of like, if only this, if only that, if only these people would do that, if only, and I thought that if the world just, you know, whatever my view was of the world, if the world would just do those things, then it would all be okay.
Mm.
And the news flash is it already is okay. And whatever part of you that doesn't feel that is the part of you to look at
Mm.
in yourself, not in other people.
That's so beautiful.
It's hard to do this alone. And so I want to give a shout out, to all of my teachers and all of the people that helped me on this path. And so my I say that because, it's so important to get support, whether it's joining a meditation community, whether it's like I have a weekly insight timer. I have an insight timer channel, for example. You can find me there. And I'm on weekly there, Wednesdays at 10, guiding a practice. Um, and whichever, come to mind or go to a different one, but connect with communities and people who are, that you resonate with, that speak to you, and then trust that. Because one thing that can happen is there can be like, there's so many different venues and communities, and so it can feel overwhelming. And all these spiritual paths end up in the same place, basically. So just go with the one that feels resonant with you, which is the one that makes you feel good. If something feels right and good in your bones, like you got kind of a body inner yes, then trust that, number one. And number two, do the thing, whatever they're doing, join the community, do the practice. You have to commit time to this. So like when I tell my clients, like, a meditation practice or some kind of practice every morning is so essential. So then, do the thing and make time for it in your life, whatever practice you decide to do.
Mm.
Yeah. And so, yeah, happy to, you want me to share some of the resources?
Yeah, and I'd love to hear just about your book, if you have a launch date, when it's coming out, and where else we can find you if anyone wants to connect and be in your world. You said Insight Timer also, which is awesome. So yeah, sharing a little bit about your book and your offerings would be great.
Okay, super. So my book launches January 8th, and it's
Mm.
available for pre-order on Amazon right now, which I'm super excited about. It's been a big road to get here. So, and then you can find me on Insight Timer, and I do live sessions there. You can also find me on Substack. I have an Inner Rewilding channel, and you can access all of that through my website, hollycopeland.co, co. And I'm very excited. So one of the things I'm doing the most right now, I do have some one-on-one clients, and I do some of the one-on-one client work, a small number of one-on-one clients, but I also lead plant medicine ceremonies. And so if people are interested, I have an event in a couple places in the US, in Montana and in Arizona, coming up next year. And I'm going to Costa Rica and leading a medicine retreat there. That's going to be super epic in April of next year.
Beautiful.
Or I work with people privately if they want to bring me to their town and bring, 4 to 6 friends. I can set something private up. So I do that as well. So, and the plant medicine ceremonies are just luscious, and they change lives. And it's just so gratifying for me to watch the changes that happen with people after these ceremonies. So that's one of my kind of, I want to say, sort of fast tracks that really will blow your heart open and really give you that window into kind of what you're really here to do, and to really feel, deeply connected to your heart. The plant medicine work is just like
Mm.
nothing else I do. So that's kind of what I'm leaning into big time. That in my book.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'll put the links in the show notes. And you said the website is also a hub for everything, which is beautiful. Congratulations on your book. It is quite the process. Is it your first book?
It is my first book.
Yeah, exciting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it feels like big. It's going to be a whole month of celebration.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again so much, Holly. Everybody, check the show notes to access Holly and see what she's up to. Maybe do a plant medicine retreat, or read her book, or maybe a session, or work with her one on one. I'll put it all below. Thank you again, friend. It was such a good conversation.